Greetings, everyone, and welcome to TRG 30. TRG 30, where every other week now we are talking about bold change for our sector's resilience. And today, I'll be reporting fresh, hot off the press information from the COVID-19 sector benchmark, a free program that we launched at the beginning of the pandemic in partnership with our data insights friends at Purple 7 in England. As always, I want to cue you up to listen for sector realities. How does your organization compare to what we're going to see here in the aggregate? How normal do you feel? How normal do any of us feel right now? Confidence. As I assert some challenges today, I'll be curious to learn where you have confidence about your campaigns. And finally, action. What does this cause you to want to do or do differently, especially as it relates to engaging audiences? And speaking of audiences, today I'm not going to build a case incrementally. I'm just going to get to the point out the gate here. It's time to open. Now, I say this knowing that many of you are still in lockdown. You're looking at weeks, in some cases months, before you'll be able to come back to live full performance. Some of you are performing live. Some of you are waiting just for a few more weeks just to be sure. But here's my advice. Put something on sale now. Subscriptions, memberships, 2022 programs, something. Here's why. People are buying. Not like they did, not like June of 2019, but in part that's because you're not selling like you were in June of 2019. So let's talk about putting something on sale, investing in a marketing campaign to support it, testing the waters. Our clients who have subscription campaigns going now and subscriptions on sale are on pace or ahead of pace compared to pre-pandemic results. On pace or ahead of pace compared to pre-pandemic results. There are audiences ready to commit now for art that's happening now or later. So I want to give you some data to offer some perspective. As I said, last year we launched the free COVID-19 sector benchmark with our UK partners, Purple 7, aggregating transactional data from customer relationship management ticketing systems daily to measure the impact of the pandemic, and soon, today's a little bit of a teaser to that, the rate of our sector's recovery. In our latest, our seventh, in fact, report, we're focused on green shoots or bright spots from the live data of nearly 400 organizations, and it's growing, this group. This report explores data by region and transaction type, and we've got it layered, the data layered in some other ways that I hope will provide some insight today. For the sector as a whole, of course, last year was a barren wasteland when it came to sales, but there have been bright spots. In the aggregate, yes, we lost everything, but we are starting now to see that change. For today, we've updated a few figures, especially for this TRG 30. So if you've seen our green shoots report, you're going to get a reminder about what's there and a look at some things that we think are nuances that are important related to the sales issue. But we've also updated a couple of data points through May. And so let's look first at that time frame. Ticket revenue from January to May of this year compared to our baseline pre-pandemic year of 2019. So that's the beginnings of recovery now compared to pre-pandemic times. It's pretty bleak across the board. Revenue shortfalls in the US are particularly drastic, likely in part to subscription campaigns that have been delayed or canceled, which makes up such a huge part of US income. But if we dig in here and focus on just the month of May, over the past 3 years, the story starts to get more nuanced. First, total ticket revenues across each country in 2019, which is our baseline. And as you know, by the late spring of 2020, we saw an almost, complete decline in ticket revenue compared to 2019. But results from this May of 2021, again, compared to 2019, are more mixed. Both the UK and the US have recouped nearly half of 2019 revenues this month. Canada and Ireland are still in similar ticketing positions, but there is a bit of hope here. So I want to dig into this green shoots report and look at some nuances a little bit more, more closely. Okay, just as it was at the beginning and the outset of the pandemic, we're seeing stark differences by region, both North America and the UK, things like case counts, province or state or regional regulations. And now, yay, vaccination rates. It's all tied to where we are on a spectrum of open and ready or still really hunkering down. But if we dig into this green shoots report and look at some variations here, there are clues that point to how you might want to contextualize or act in your particular situation. Let's start here. Straight from the green shoots report, which went through April. At that time, America was 47% behind 2019 results. But if we look at regional dissections, we'll get some more insight. In America, New England, the Rockies, the Southeast and the Southwest, so cities like Boston, Denver, Atlanta, Phoenix, these are leading in revenue return, performing well above the national average at that time. Now, Canada, we don't have enough representation across provinces yet for a complete picture for you. So please sign up for this benchmark, especially as we start reporting on the recovery. It's free to participate. But certainly the differences in opening schemes across provinces are going to have similar kind of disparities and differences as we look at and grow in participation in that country. In the aggregate, the UK was just 31% behind 2019 results. Again, a regional story here tells a clear difference between sales in the southwest of England and those in Scotland. Right now, traditionally smaller markets are outperforming larger markets like London and the countries of Wales and Scotland. So traditionally smaller markets are ahead of pace here. A note I want to make clearly, this measures simply sales revenues. What it doesn't show is how many organizations have product for sale or how local sentiments are impacting results. Our partners at Purple 7 are regularly surveying UK arts audiences though, and what appears to be a critical sentiment in buying right now, besides adhering to safety measures, is the consumer's ability to exchange or cancel tickets, an important tactic that can help you unlock, it appears, your sales activity now for future events during uncertain times. Here's another interesting look. In April, North America was producing just at 18% of 2019 results. We saw growth and a pickup in May, but in April, it was just at 18%. When we look at a genre report though, we find that art centers, dance, and opera companies categorized here as other. Sorry to all of you in those sectors. We know that you're distinguished and important art forms. As we get more of you, we'll be able to detail this more succinctly. But this other category, performing arts centers, dance, and opera, they may have put subscriptions on sale earlier or individual events. Have you? Remember, our clients who are selling subscriptions are on pace or ahead compared to 2019, including, I didn't say this before, on acquisition. In our UK snapshot, our partners at Purple 7 categorize participating venues in one of 7 ways, and it's based on their size and the work that they put on stage. So the recovery here is most pronounced in venues that largely present touring work, with the largest with more than 1,000 seats up 45%, up to 45% of their sales, their 2019 sales. And the smallest presenting venues, which have less than 400 seats, only right now are achieving 10% of their April 2019 revenue. Across our geographies broadly, we're also seeing trends that differ around when audiences are buying tickets. Some of you will recognize this now and later taffy candy. As you look at the next set of numbers with me, your schedule will put these when data points in context. And so let's take a look now at timing. A reminder that this data reports on advanced sales in systems now. US data show that more than half of all advanced sales are for 2022, and about a quarter of them are for the summer. Canada, you have a much higher proportion of sales in the fall, with just 40% of current sales revenue tied to 2022. UK has very little revenue tied to the summer. The lockdown realities there we see in full relief, less than 20%, which we contrast with Ireland, where nearly 50% of revenue is tied to events in that same period. Where are you? Have you announced some or all of your programming? Those of you with subscription will likely see trends that look more like the US, with a higher percentage of revenue tied to the new year. But what are you doing now? What can you do now to inspire confidence to buy before then? Do you have programming online or in person or outside? What's right for all of you? Each of your organizations is gonna vary greatly, but I can't say that I'm nervous for organizations that don't yet have revenue tied to upcoming performances, wherever they are. If you're not extending invitations now, even if they're for events well into the future, remember exchange and cancellation policies. But if you aren't doing that, how do you know what your audiences want, aside from survey results, which I'll get to in a minute? You need to give yourself time to adapt your campaigns, whether they're for single tickets or subscriptions. I feel like now is the time to reignite your ticket revenue pipeline. US data show, I just said that. We have new philanthropic results as well in this report. A likewise mixed bag of concern and some bright spots. Our philanthropic report prior to the one I'm doing today was in January of 2021, and it looked at giving to the performing arts sector in all of 2020. It revealed a complex picture where the headline was a big drop in aggregated revenue from individual giving, which masked some significantly, in some cases, improved performance by many individual organizations. So we're going to take a look at the update now. And again, be mindful of where your results fit within the context of these aggregated charts, and ask yourself, how do we compare? How normal do we feel? In the UK, we see that 56% of all organizations in the data set saw an increase of 20% or more in donated revenue in 2020 compared to 2019. 53% were able to maintain that growth in 2021, again, compared to 2019. We do see more organizations in 2021 falling behind by 20% or more compared to those 2019 numbers. Now, this data looks at all of contributed revenue, so it may consider cultural recovery funds, but the overall picture is quite positive in the UK. So my challenge to you, my question is, how will you carry these positive trends forward in 2022 and beyond? Start planning for it now. Your audiences have the capacity and the will, apparently, to give. Do you have plans that insist on yourselves that you ask them to keep doing it? I think you should. In North America, nearly half in 2020 of all organizations saw a 20% or more increase in contributed revenue compared to 2019. We know this. Many organizations saw big wins in the first few months of 2020. But the story is very different in 2021, with those numbers really reversed. Over half of all organizations have seen a 20% or more decrease to philanthropic revenue this year compared to 2019, our baseline year. In Canada, 100% of the organizations we have in our data set have experienced a 20% or more lost in gift revenue this year compared to 2019. Folks, this feels big to me, and it may be tied directly to sales. I imagine that many of you would have started subscription or ticketing membership campaigns by now in a pre-pandemic cycle. And likely you see upticks in contributed revenue during those campaigns. If you haven't launched a robust sales campaign yet, and you're not seeing unprecedented levels of donated ticket revenue, how are you going to close that gap before your fiscal year end? Okay, lots of data. We need to do something with data. So let's talk about four things. First, let's use this aggregated data. You, of course, are going to get a copy of this deck and this video to share, but use this data and your own plans, make them now for how and when you're going to re-engage your audiences. I know programming drives this, of course programming drives this, but if you even have a sense of when you're going to resume anything like normal performances wherever they are, start building your re-engagement and acquisition campaigns now. Be thoughtful about your invitations, give yourself time to sell, think in the mind with empathy from the consumer's point of view, exchanges, cancellations, but get going and do it. You're good at doing things. The sector is good at doing things. In the middle of a pandemic, you did new, brilliant, bold, and organization-saving things. And I know you're exhausted, but the two don't have to be mutually exclusive. Build full team alignment on what is critical to do now. Set goals together. Give yourself permission to say no to things, or we'll do it later, to things that aren't going to help you reach the most important goals right now. Third, let's be creative and not rely on what we used to do. This year is going to have to be different than any other year. We're coming back from a pandemic. Our revenue models will have shifted. Our audiences will want to engage differently. UK, we've got to focus on keeping those donors. North America, we've got to get something on sale. And finally, as you're surveying and talking to your patrons, many of you are asking about their intentions to return. That's great data to have. And yet we've got to start pairing it now with actual sales data, because what we know at TRG is that what consumers and audiences say they will do may be quite different from what they actually will and do when given the opportunity. As I've mentioned, participation in the free COVID-19 sector benchmark. There are nearly 400 organizations that are live, nearly 600 that are registered. Join this movement. And Stephen, we are equipping the sector with information about how to use this benchmark now, right?
Yeah, that's right. Hi, everyone. Caitlin's going to drop in chat a link. We're launching another deeper dive session because we know how folks are using the benchmark at the moment, particularly as they go on sale. So Brad, our wonderful Brad, is going to run a 45-minute session next Wednesday to give you a whistle-stop tour of the dashboards, some top data points to monitor on there to help with the actions that you can take in your campaigns. Whether you're in the benchmark or not, I'd encourage you to join that session. It's free and it will be at least another round of provocation and data to keep you energized for next week. Yes. Also on Tuesday, Jill James is joining us for the Good Digital session. So you can have a whole week of us next week if you so desire.
Oh yeah, great. And I remember how much people loved that session, and James was terrific. I also want to just thank our partners in the benchmark, the NEA, SMU Data Arts, and Statista, who helps us enliven the reporting in it. Also, just a heads up, we're doing another round of our COVID comeback study, which we're going to use to ask and evaluate questions about when and how the sector's coming back. You'll be asked to participate. We certainly hope you do. And as always, we are here TRG, the resiliency group, to help you build resiliency and your community relevancy. Stephen, I see the chat blowing up. I don't know if that means we've got questions, but I'll love to talk with you and everyone in this room about the data that's here and what it might mean to action.
Sure, I'm just digesting that data, Jill, and it's just so exciting to see those revenue lines on the weekly increment, a chart with a weekly increment that we can celebrate rather than being...
Right, it's the beginning of recovery. I mean, that little bit of May data, just whoa, a green shoot that says from April to May, there is something happening with events going on sale and events taking place. The recovery, we can feel it starting to begin in the data.
You submit your questions, folks, in chat or in the Q&A. Ben has got a question here. But we may have some anecdata here rather than actual data, Jill, but Ben talks about the number of donors who chose not to request refunds or demand a later replacement for unused tickets and considered that purchase ticket a donation, right? I wonder if we have any sense of how many of those who contributed their tickets actually donated additionally with cash gifts. It's a difficult data point for us to get to in the benchmark because of the way different ticketing systems aggregate those data. But I'm just thinking about some of the client experiences that I've had here, and particularly how people are showing up in these campaigns now, where we're seeing those that had money left on account or had already donated at the end of last season and now either giving that credit now in the subscription campaign or adding on more gifts at this point. We're starting to see the philanthropic impact with these subscription renewal campaigns now, right?
Right, and hello to Ben and Mike. You know, the results in the US in particular, the philanthropic results were high compared to 2019. So anecdata, what I know is that probably all of North American organizations were connecting with all of the segments, which would include those ticket buyers who donated the tickets, to ask and invite them for gifts. We saw big growth in small gifts, Ben. So I don't have data, but my instinct is that folks who did that were supportive and felt like they needed to help prop up the industry a bit. That's not a guarantee though, as we look at 2021 data. So how we invite with the customer in mind, you all, really on a segmented basis, so that we're thinking about what's going to matter to those, those ticket bookers who donated tickets and might have invested in during the pandemic year of 2020. What are they prepared and willing to do now? Testing and learning feels like it's going to be really important right now.
Yeah. Jill, I wonder around this testing and learning, as folks are planning their on-sale campaigns, whether it be subscription or single tickets, we've got these segments that we've talked in previous sessions, right, where people may have donated, may have refunded their tickets, may have money on account. Should we be asking again for additional gifts?
Well, I'm gonna hedge here and say it will depend on whether that was a first time or a regular, like a brand new ticket booker or subscriber who donated and gave. Do we ask them again? Maybe we do. With the right kind of invitation and language, I think we could, but certainly if I'm a long time participant and sort of owner stakeholder in, yes. So segmentation, we've said this a lot, segmentation feels more important than ever right now.
Stacey's shared a data point here. In 2020, we saw that converting tickets to gifts substituted for new cash gifts. In spring 2021, we're seeing cash gifts on pace with spring 2019, which is a good indicative data point. Bradley asks, have we seen success in non-participation based earned income? I'm thinking about passive income from educational programming, etc., like we've seen individual artists benefit from in recent years.
Passive based, so it's not like show based, right? Is that how you're interpreting that, Stephen? What I do know, again, we don't have this in the benchmark. I'm curious what you would say, but for my theater clients, ballet clients, where schools are, that's participation based though. And those that moved online were able to, even with like adult Pilates classes online, but I'm not sure that gets at what he's asking. I don't know if you've got a better answer to that than I have.
I don't, and I wonder if, I know some of our team are listening in, and if there's anything that you'd share in chat to answer Bradley, but if not,
Right.
Bradley, would be sure to respond to that. Michael asked a question around the UK venue data. Does that reflect more limited space for social distancing and challenges in break even audience sizes? And yeah,
of course it does.
We're waiting tentatively, but those are true figures compared to, and yet we acknowledge there's a limit, right, point to what revenue and ticket sales can be achieved with physical distancing that's currently in place there.
Yeah.
And I think we see the same in some of the US marketplaces, right?
Yep, for sure. Theaters, that run a 200-seat venue or a 100-seat venue versus their bigger venues that 500 or 600 for certain. It's, it's about our ability to put something on sale. Sometimes it's the size of the venue that enables us that puts that limit on it, unfortunately. And this is the real challenge with our sector, that makes this so incrementally tough and makes it so emotional for, especially I see right now in the UK, but not limited, in Canada too. It makes it very emotional. We feel very much like our hands are tied. And so our creativity and resiliency, I think about, I don't want to step on anybody else's question, but I think about we're in the final phases of fatigue here. And we still, some of us feel like we're banging our head against a wall because we can't do that which we've been born to do. So taking care of ourselves, building community. I'm thinking a lot right now about what community means in arts and culture. And certainly it's not just the nonprofit, it's also the commercial community and the education community, all of us together who are working to build infrastructure in our communities need to come together to create one voice about the importance of smart reopening. It can't be nonprofits alone. We have to come together to work together and protect each other.
Bradley, my colleague Adam has come with a couple of anecdotes from two organizations, a performing arts center and a theatre. Revenues from education programs where schools were the main client, as opposed to individual students, were very robust and easily transitioned to digital. Lots of schools were looking for arts curriculum that was easily delivered via virtual school. I'm just interested about the challenge that might pose. I'm starting to hear that in some of the discussions here in the UK, particularly around holiday, where schools are now asking, are you going to be streaming this again so we don't need to come to you?
Right.
In some of the decision making. So,
right. I sure hope, I'm sorry.
No,
I sure hope that there's I sure hope that there is a both and strategy here, because our ability to, I was talking to, this is a dumb personal anecdote, but I was talking to my fitness coach yesterday, and I do all of that online. Now, the lion's share of his customers have come back in studio, but I haven't. And that just has to do with my own demands on my schedule, but that enables me to continue. And the same will be true for our audiences. There will be some audiences that geographically can't get to you, physically can't get to you, whatever it is. And our ability as a sector to continue to make those channels available, I just feel so strongly about it on our behalf. Why cut people off? Boy, oh boy.
Well, as we come to a close, Jill, I think you've just suggested a future TRG 30 where you run an exercise class for us in the 30 minutes. If you can do that virtually, surely we can do that in TRG 30.
You are funny. You turned into a comedian today. That's good.
Look, thanks everyone for joining. Jill, you won't be with us in a couple of weeks, but we will still be here and we'll look forward to seeing
holiday
in 2 weeks. There'll be a follow-up email with all the relevant links that we've talked about today. Thank you for being with us. May the force continue to be with you. We're getting there. Those charts are going in a great direction. So we'll keep bringing you that data. Thank you, Jill. Take care of you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Bye-bye.
Bye.